analysis, valuable insight, expert views, presented by an award-winning team. Today, keeping you well informed, up to date, and ahead of the news.
You're listening to World Today. Russia's defense ministry has announced Tuesday that they are pulling back some troops in Russia's military districts adjacent to Ukraine after completing drills. Russia's foreign minister Sergei Lavrov said on Monday that a diplomatic solution to its escalating standoff with the West is still possible. In a televised meeting, President Vladimir Putin was told that diplomatic talks had not yet been exhausted. Since November, Kiev and some Western countries have accused Russia of assembling heavy troops near the Ukraine border with the possible intention of invasion. Russia denied the accusation, saying that Russia had the right to mobilize troops within its borders to defend its territory, as NATO's activities constitute a threat to Russia's border security. In recent days, the United States and some other countries have advised their citizens to leave Ukraine, citing increased threats of military action. For more on this, we are now joined on the line by Chen Shirong, managing editor of Foremost 4 Media and China Report magazine. Thank you, Mr. Chen. It's good to speak to you.
Thank you for having me.
Now, first up, how do you view, the recent announcement of Russia of pulling back some of its forces and this softening of tone somehow from Russia? Is it a positive sign that a war is being avoided?
Well, as the diplomatic efforts are ongoing between Russia, Ukraine, the U.S., and some European countries, I think any softening of the tension is to be welcome. But we must be clear about the reported number of troops amassed around the border. Overall, we are talking about over 100,000 troops, or some say 130,000 troops. The pulling back of this bit would amount to maybe about 30,000. So it's a fraction of the overall troop numbers there.
Well, the United Kingdom followed the United States previously in moving out their diplomats out of Kiev. I mean, first up, what's UK's interest in this, and what's UK's intention in this, and how serious do you think the move out mean for the condition on the ground?
I think if you are sitting inside Ukraine and with such large number of troops around and the military drills and missiles and ships, and helicopters and airplanes flying overhead, then it is pretty serious. And it's not just the US or the UK, but a dozen of other countries have pulled back or reduced their diplomatic numbers, staff in the capital of Ukraine. Having said that, the UK, after Brexit, has been following the US more closely than before. So whatever the US is saying about the Ukraine, you tend to see the UK saying, yes, of course. So in that sense, I'm not surprised. Anything is coming out of London saying it is pretty serious. I'm not saying it is not. On the other hand, as the UK Prime Minister is holding a COBRA emergency meeting here in London, so there is something to be worried about, I'm sure. The UK wanted to play a bigger part after Brexit. They want to show that Britain is more global. I suppose this is a part of the way of showing, to the local voters, say, look, that's part of their advantage now that we're out of the EU.
Right, indeed. The UK does signal on different issues that the United Kingdom still wants, its say in international affairs. I mean, part of this situation, of the reason why the tensions have escalated around the Ukrainian issue is that the United States said that, according to intelligence picked up by themselves, an invasion could happen at any moment, with possible targets of Wednesday, which is tomorrow. I mean, how much more credibility should we give to these reports given by the U.S., especially when we think about, what happened before the Iraq War?
Well, it's very difficult to, even within the intelligence communities, it will be very difficult to put a handle on the so-called U.S. intelligence analysis one. Judging from the information that is given out, last Friday they were saying that a Russian invasion is imminent. Mm-hmm. It can happen any day. Then it says, it could happen in 24 hours. And then there was this Wednesday notice. And now we are seeing reports saying, it could happen end of this week. So in that sense, I wouldn't bet on whichever day, if ever, an invasion would take place. This is what the Russian Foreign Ministry are saying. This is a failed Western war propaganda. If an invasion of Russian troops into Ukraine is avoided, then Ukraine would say, look, that's the Western diplomacy that's working.
We briefly talked about, the role and the intention or the goal of the United Kingdom. I mean, I also want to talk about, what Germany and France want out of this, because we've seen the Normandy format talks happening for several rounds, but what is the role, what should be the role of Germany and France in this, do you think? And has the Normandy format achieved anything at all?
Well, before we say anything about this four-nation talk, about the agreement or treaty for eastern Ukraine, we must be clear that within NATO, within Europe, there are different interests related to Russia and other security matters. Germany is a very reluctant player in this because Germany is very closely linked with Russia in terms of financial services and other investments and projects and exports, and also there's a famous Nord Stream, the gas pipeline. And also France wanted to play a role, especially after the US and UK formed an alliance and sold the deal with Australia for a new alliance of nuclear submarines. So France, especially under President Macron, wanted to advocate a kind of a European autonomy in terms of foreign policy. So these two countries, by the way, the Vice Admiral of the German Navy said in India that if President Putin wanted some respect, we should give them some respect. It's cheap. And the French president also said, well, the Russian country, deserves some respect. So in that sense, they would want some peace just out of your front door. That's understandable. Having said that, that treaty hasn't been really implemented to the full, and it's all ongoing. It's part of the diplomatic effort. I don't think you can solve that local regional issue without an overall sort of understanding or agreement.
Well, certainly everybody, I think, around the world are watching what's happening surrounding this issue now. It's good to speak to you. We've been talking to Xianyang, managing editor of the foremost of Foreign Media and China Report magazine. You're listening to World Today. We'll be back after a short break.